You're locked in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal
from somewhere beyond the status quo,
here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio, the show that helps you build the business you need so you can live the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogden. So much of our success depends on our mindset. Just about everybody I talk to will agree that everything begins in your mind. And so being able to control your mind and to get that mental edge is critically important as a rebelpreneur. Today's expert is going to help us dial that in. I'm speaking with Ivan Petarnichki. He has been fascinated by mind control abilities and brain plasticity since he was a teenager. He has been involved in experimental and applied psychology for the last 30 years. He studied and mastered over 40 different techniques and methods for rapid shifts and dramatic improvement of the physical, mental, and emotional states of people. Ivan has distilled over 30 years of knowledge and experience into a simple and easy to learn and to implement mental edge mastery system that delivers amazing results in record time. Joining me from Bulgaria, Ivan, welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
Hi, Ralph. I'm glad to be with you and your audience today.
It's a pleasure to have you and to dig into this idea of controlling our mind. Before we get into it, explain to our audience, what is brain plasticity? I know that's a psychological term, but give us the Reader's Digest version. What is brain plasticity and what does that have to do with controlling your mind?
It is the ability of the brain to change and create new neural connections. So basically, the idea that we have set programs in the brain that work during our lives, and also that we cannot change certain personal traits or certain abilities that we are born with is wrong. This notion is wrong. The brain can change and can change indefinitely until we are alive. So the age doesn't matter as well. The brain can always grow new neural connections, reorganize the existing ones, and basically we can equip the brain with new abilities if we use it properly.
Well, that's exciting because I think one of the sayings, the old sayings that people say is that you cannot teach an old dog new tricks. And what you're suggesting with brain plasticity is that actually you can. Well, maybe not old dogs, but you can train old people or older people to think and to behave differently, that we are not stuck with the programming that we have received. Is that correct?
That's exactly true. And this saying comes from ages where people didn't know much about the brain and the ability of the brain to change. They didn't know how the brain worked, etc. So the methods that they used to teach dog new tricks were old-fashioned and ineffective. And now we have a lot of science that backs up this ability of the brain to change, and we have new techniques, and actually every day there are new techniques that are coming up for faster, simpler, easier results, that achieve easier results, and that help us become better versions of us quicker.
Very exciting, especially as we are looking to control our mind and our mindset as entrepreneurs or rebelpreneurs. You've been studying this for the last 30 years, and I want to get into your mental edge mastery system and talk about some of the biggest problems that you solve with that training. But first, tell us a little bit about how you got interested in the psychology of mind control and brain plasticity.
You and your audience have heard the theory that certain life events actually shape us and determine who we are, how we identify ourselves, what are we interested of, what we pursue, what our talents are, the areas that we seek to develop our abilities, etc. So it's been actually two major events in my life that I can track or backtrack my interest to psychology. Actually, I have two main passions in my life. They are aviation and psychology. And the first event that I can think of that has got me interested in psychology was when I was 6 years old, or approximately 6 years old. I remember a specific time where we lived in a very tall building and had an amazing view of the city where I lived. And it was summertime, and I was looking at from the balcony, and I saw this wonderful world surrounding me, and I was very, very happy. I had very happy childhood. But I remember distinctly this period when I sat in a armchair and cried because I was going to die one day, and I wouldn't be able to enjoy the world and all the pleasures that it had to offer. And since that day, I have been interested of ways to prolong my life. And I've started with, as I grew up, I mean, at that time, I didn't realize what was going on. But as I grew up, I was very interested in sports, and then became interested in martial arts, in yoga. And this led me actually to search more in the spiritual and mental development. And at the age of 29, I left Bulgaria because a lot of bad things happened to me. I went to Australia, and I went there without a permit to stay. I was on a tourist visa, and the first 2 years in Australia were the worst years in my life. And at the end of these 2 years, towards the end of these 2 years, I remember specifically a point where I hated everyone, everything in my life, and especially myself, for staying there, not going back. And everything was really, really going bad for me. And I hated myself and everything around so much. I walked on the streets and I screamed loudly, and I kicked fences and buildings, and I wanted to kill someone. And at that point, I realized that I was on the verge of going mental and probably being institutionalized. So I thought I have to change something in my mind, in the way I think, and otherwise things are going to really go down. And I remember the book that I read when I was back in Bulgaria. I was about 18 years old when I read it. It was about from Jose Silva, Mind Control. The book was called Mind Control by Jose Silva, and it was based on visualization and and affirmation techniques that you had to repeat every day for 40 days to change certain beliefs that you had and achieve certain goals. And I started practicing whatever I remembered from that book. And it actually, within 3 to 4 weeks, I started seeing results, positive results in my life.
Wow,
and
just from that one book.
Yes, from the memory of this one book.
Ah.
And I started looking for going to a course on that subject. And in Australia, there were courses on Jose Silva's teachings. Then I got involved with Scientology. I've never been a member of Scientology, but the church. But I read the book written by I can't remember his name now.
That would be L. Ron Hubbard.
Yes, exactly. And the book actually spoke about the clearing of the person physically and mentally, etc. And the philosophy of the book I liked a lot. So I started searching in that area as well, and this led me to NLP. And while I was learning NLP at the end of the course that I did for the certification course, I was introduced to EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. It really struck a chord with me. I instantly recognized that it was something that I needed to learn more about. And I started studying EFT, and actually in 2006, because I married a Bulgarian girl, I went back to Bulgaria, and we decided to stay there. And I published a book in Bulgaria about EFT and so on. But basically, to go back to the question, what got me interested in mental development was this first event. And then while I was working in Australia, I was working as a personal trainer for a while. And I realized that people that I trained, they had problems with their bodies and the physique and the fitness that were related not so much about the food that they ate and the exercises that they did, but had a lot to do with their mentality. And
that's a pretty common problem, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And this also pushed me in that direction, and especially the results that I saw. So I told you at the end of the second year, I was on the verge of going mental, and at the end of the third year, I had my own business. I completed my life dream of becoming a pilot. I became a pilot of aircraft, light aircraft in Australia. Later on, I became a trainer, flight trainer, and so on. So pretty quickly, in a matter of a year, my life turned around.
That's really exciting, because a lot of people will just take information, but they will not apply it to their lives. You took this information and you applied it, and you were able to create these rapid shifts in your mind. And as a result, your behaviors changed and your circumstances improved for the better. So fast forward 30 years, and now you're helping others to achieve these results as well. Tell us a little bit more about what you do for people, and who are the types of people that you help. Who gets the most benefit out of your program?
Currently, I started working with coaches because I realized that this is the best way to leverage myself. Because if I teach a coach how to apply these techniques that I'm teaching at the moment, that I have distilled from these 30 years of study and practice, I can affect more people. Instead of teaching a person how to apply it in his life and affect one person, I can teach a coach who is going to teach other people. And this way I can, the snowball effect can spread faster.
Yeah.
But what I have found in the 15 years I've been looking at what is happening in the coaching world online, and in the Western, especially English-speaking world, I find that the coaching is growing. It's growing rapidly. The coaching industry is growing. A lot of coaches are being produced every year, certified, etc. Although it's not very well regulated. But almost none of them are taught in the institutions that certify them. They are not taught any techniques or they're not given any tools on changing their own mindset and the mindset of the people that they work with. The most common coaching of a coach is to ask questions which are aimed to reveal to the person they're working with the fallacy of their thinking and eventually the next step that they need to take. And then the coach is there to support the person to make these steps. So basically, the coach brings the person to the edge of their comfort zone, shows them what the comfort zone is, if they don't realize it, brings them to the edge and helps them cross the edge, but helps them cross the edge with very small steps. Mm-hmm. In my teaching, what my personal belief, my theory that is proven by practice is that instead of crossing the border of the comfort zone, you basically remove the border of the comfort zone. And this makes the person make much larger strides and even leaps in their development. So, for example, just to illustrate, because it may not be clear, if you have a person who is afraid of heights, and you slowly try to bring this person higher and higher, so they can, they make a small step. They climb, say, a few meters, and they stay there until they feel comfortable, and then they climb a few meters higher, and they stay there until they feel comfortable, etc., etc. This will take a long time, and this person is going to struggle along the way, even at each step for a while, but he's going to struggle, he or she. But if you remove the fear, if you do a technique that removes the fear, this person will not even remember sometimes that he had the fear. He may climb the highest peak of the mountain, look down, and suddenly realize, I wouldn't have been able to do that, few days ago. Or say a person who has fears of elevators, he suddenly finds himself in an elevator when he has been avoiding elevators for years in his life.
And that all comes to basically rewiring your brain, not trying to overcome existing programming, but just rewiring the brain so that it doesn't respond to the same stimulus as it did before. Is that how it works? Yes,
exactly. So you're not using your will, you're not pushing harder, you're not struggling. You just change the perspective, your attitude, and you don't, as you said, you don't react to the same stimulus the same way.
Now, could this also work for, let's say, entrepreneurs, rebelpreneurs, as I call them, coaches or consultants who are trying to get clients, but they are struggling with fear of sales or fear of marketing or fear of rejection? Do these techniques work in a business application like that?
They work perfectly for this type of people when the fears that you mentioned, they're quite common, especially new coaches that have that they haven't got much experience and haven't worked with many people, have no proven record of success, etc. So they're perfect for them. And when these fears are removed, actually the confidence goes up. The fear of sales goes away. It's non-existent. And most importantly, one of the techniques that I teach that produces very fast results is the self-identity changes of the person. And actually, the self-identity is the driving force behind all behavior.
So explain to us what that is, the how we identify with ourselves and how that drives our behaviors, because I think that's really useful as opposed to trying to change our behaviors. We first have to change how we see ourselves, right?
Exactly. Well, every sentence that you say to yourself that starts with I am is basically a sentence that identifies you, that describes your self-identity. So I'm good at this. I'm talented at that. I'm not good at that. I've always struggled with math. I'm not good at math. I suck at math or something.
And then these become self-fulfilling prophecies or self-fulfilling identities that become difficult for us to break out of because this is how we see ourselves.
Exactly. Or we actually avoid, like if you say to yourself, let's go back to the coaches and their fears. If you say to yourself, I'm not good at sales, or I have never been able to sell anything in my life or to deliver certain result in my life for my clients before, how can I do it now? You will avoid even trying because you're afraid of failure and you're afraid of the basic fear of all coaches is the fear of rejection. It goes down to the fear of sales, fear of the imposter syndrome, and the fear of I'm not good enough, the fear I'm not worthy of whatever price I want to charge for my services.
That's a big one, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. So you either avoid the activity that you think you are not good at, or if you ever try to do that activity, you go with the fear in it, and usually you fail. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Mm-hmm. So you kind of prove to yourself that you're not good.
And prospects or potential clients or customers, they pick up on that. They get the feeling coming across that you're not sure or there's a lack of confidence, and they pick up on that. And so they basically give you back what you're giving them, which is mirroring your emotional state, which is lack of confidence. And so they don't have confidence in what you're offering or that you can solve the problem. And so they don't engage you. And so this is why I had you on, Ivan, because we've got to get our mindset in the right place so that when we do go out and we engage with people as business owners, especially coaches and consultants, we got to know who we are, and we have to project that confidence. And it can't be a fake confidence; it has to be real. That we know that we can solve the problems and deliver the results that people want. And when we know that for sure, that comes across in how we interact. And that state of mind, that state of being, then translates over to the people that we are potentially working with, and they're more likely to say yes. And so this is why we always talk about how important the mindset is, because it really does. You really do become what you think.
Definitely. You've probably heard that in communication, only about 7% is logical, or what you say, and about 93% is nonverbal. So people will always pick. I mean, you may say the right words, you may have a script in your sales call or whatever, you may have the right tactics to overcome any objection, but the way you say it is going to come across, and the person will not trust you. They will feel it's almost like it's not it's intuitive feeling that you are not genuine, sincere, and authentic.
Right. Even though you've got the right words. And so that's why we focus so much on our mindset, self-talk, building the clarity and the confidence, because it really is more about your psychology than it is about your strategy. You've got a quote on your website from Tony Robbins: "Success is 80% psychology and 20% strategy." That's pretty accurate, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, this Pareto's rule is applying everywhere, and in this case as well. But what is good about the system that I teach is that a part of the fact that it removes your fears and all the inner conflicts that you have, etc., your inner crap. It actually gives you tools that you can use in your coaching practice, so you can be absolutely confident you can deliver, and you can take your clients from their present state to their desired destination very, very quickly, and you can produce results on every single sessions that they can see themselves, feel themselves, that are measurable.
Yeah, very important that we nail that down, especially as coaches or consultants. I love that. Tell us a little bit about your program and how our listeners can find out more.
My program, I like simplicity. I like simplicity and constant wins. So my program basically consists of 3 techniques. I teach only 3 techniques. One of them is about instant change of the mental and emotional state of the person, so they can see very quick results, so you can prove that you know what you're doing and that you can produce results. The second one is about clearing events, the past events that I've mentioned, that they shape who we are and what we do and what we like and what we don't like and what we pursue, etc. And the third one is about changing self-identity. All of them take minutes to be implemented and results to be seen. Of course, the explanation takes a little bit longer than a few minutes.
Sure.
But all techniques work within the scope of 10 to 20 minutes of application. Max.
Excellent.
And the program goes actually for 6 weeks. In each week, I teach a new technique, and then the people that I'm teaching have time to implement the technique, eventually see some problems or have some questions that need to be addressed. And then after the 6 weeks, they have another additional 6 weeks of unlimited support if they want to discuss anything once they start going out and applying it with clients.
Perfect. And I like the name of it, Mental Edge Mastery System, delivering amazing results in record time. If our listeners want to find out more, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
The best way is to email me. My email is ivan@mentaledgemastery.com.
Perfect. So then your website would be mentaledgemastery.com.
That's correct.
If you want to go check that out and see what Mental Edge Mastery is all about. This is really exciting stuff, Ivan. You're doing some important work here, and I think that it's definitely needed, because it seems like most of the problems we have, it's not out there, it's inside, it's between our ears and our own thoughts. So this is very useful. Any final thoughts or any words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our listeners before we wrap up?
The final words of wisdom is that everything in this world that is material has started as something that was non-material, and everything that's being created by man has started as a thought or as an idea. So everything starts in the mind, and algorithm of success is be, do, have. So before you have whatever you want to have, you have to be the person for whom having this thing is natural. Then you have to do the actions that are going to bring you the desired results. And doing the action, what stops you from doing the action is only one thing. You associate either the steps that you need to take or the final result with some pain and struggle. If you don't associate them, you will do the step instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Removing the pain and the struggle, your association between the action and pain and struggle is the key point for you to move forward fast and without hesitation, without any doubt, to become fearless and do not procrastinate. So the mindset is the crucial factor, the paramount factor in your success in any area, no matter if it's personal, business, lifestyle, whatever. So get your mindset right. Everything else will follow.
Well, there you have it from an expert who should know, Ivan Petarnichki. He is someone who has been involved in experimental and applied psychology for the last 30 years, distilling his knowledge into a simple and easy to learn and implement mental edge mastery system, delivering amazing results in record time. So if you need to work on your mental mastery, then check out mentaledgemastery.com. It has really been a pleasure to have you on Rebelpreneur Radio. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Ralph. It's been my pleasure.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at rebelpreneur.com.